If I hadn't known this information, I would have missed out on 4 weeks of paid leave. Today, I'm going to be talking about 4 mistakes to avoid if you are trying to get paid as much as possible while you are away on maternity leave. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer, I am not an HR expert, nor am I an employment law expert. This is just purely based on my experience having been through maternity leave twice with 2 different companies. If you are new to the channel, my name is Ashley. I live and work in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am a mother of 2. I like to make videos on the internet about being a mom. And I now have a coaching program that helps first-time moms transition through the 3rd trimester into your first few months of postpartum. If you think you could benefit from a little bit of one-on-one attention from someone like me, feel free to take a look at the links down below or get in contact with me in any way, and I'd be happy to connect. I made a video talking about my first time going through this maternity leave experience, and I would like to say that I am now so much more knowledgeable. There's still a lot of helpful information in that video, but if you would like to watch both of these videos, I think it'll give you a really good idea of what to expect when it comes to maternity leave. Now, the first mistake to avoid is to not know your rights. So in California, they offer short-term disability that you can actually start taking before your due date. Not every state offers this. You should probably look it up to see if yours does. My company was not based in California this time around. So when they gave me my maternity leave calendar and I looked at it, it started on the day of my due date, which is pretty normal in most cases. However, I want you all to know that you are entitled to take leave earlier than your due date if you are in California. I've gotten a lot of questions about whether you need to have a doctor's note, and you do not. You do need a doctor's note if you want to go out earlier than 36 weeks. 36 weeks is something that every birthing mother is entitled to. If I had not known that I was entitled to this additional leave and I hadn't pushed back and asked for it, I would not have taken it at all. Now, it is rare that you'll get paid 100% of your pay during the 4 weeks before your birth. At the very least, if your company is helping you pay into short-term disability, you will see this on your pay stub. Then you should be entitled up to 60 to 70% of your pay during the time before your birth. Now, this benefit is also use it or lose it. It's not like if you don't use the 4 weeks before, you get 4 weeks more after your birth. That's not how it works. It's just a special 4 weeks that you have to use before your birth. If you're concerned about whether you'll get paid, I want to get paid as much as possible, there is a chance that your baby could come early. Exhibit A, me. Exhibit B, me again. Once your baby comes, you get kicked into your normal maternity leave where you'll probably get paid 100% by your company. Now, this particular disability benefit is pretty complicated in it itself, so I'm going to make another video that dives deep onto this specific benefit because I think it's that important that you get some time off before your actual due date. The second mistake to avoid is not talking to your HR one-on-one. Every single time that I have asked about my parental leave and what the policies are, I've gotten Google Doc after Google Doc. I've actually had to proactively ask for a one-on-one. The reason why I think this is important is 1, you get the opportunity to ask specifics like what I just described, like the pre-birth stuff. The second is that you could actually end up getting a little bit more leave than you wanted to. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in terms of what you're allowed to do. Several people, for example, like to use PTO that they use at the end of it to kind of extend their leave a little bit longer. You may want to take some additional unpaid leave. In my case, it was not written in my company policy that my company would top me up for the part before birth. However, because I asked for this one-on-one, I asked. And what do you know? They come back a few weeks later and let me know that they figured out a way for me to get paid fully even before the baby comes. The reason why I think a lot of HR departments might avoid trying to get on the call with you, of course, they're supposed to be available for you, but the reason that they just point you to the docs and the resources is because it can be hard to understand a company leave policy. I've had cases where HR had to bring in their own manager because they weren't exactly sure about what the policy was and didn't want to say anything wrong. It's okay if there's not any final answers during that meeting, just so you have this starting point where you have these follow-up questions and you guys can link back up with each other later, either through email or answer any questions that you may have had. The third mistake to avoid is not answering your questions on your claim correctly. So I mentioned that during your maternity leave, a portion of it will be paid by the government. In California, you will be going to EDD's website and filing a claim there. Now, all I want to say is that you want to do this correctly, because having to chase down EDD or ask EDD a simple question is not simple whatsoever. I can tell you from real experience that you do not want to be contacting EDD if you don't have to. So what this means is that as you go through the questions, please make sure that you answer them correctly. They're not hard questions, but there are a couple that are sort of tricky. This question was one in particular that I found really challenging. I was able to get this resource from maternity411.com. She also has an Instagram that is super, super helpful. It's my second time around, and I answered this question incorrectly, which forced me to end up having to contact EDD and to clarify and to change my answer on this response. If you come to a question and you're not quite sure what the answer is, it is better to go out of your way to ask your third-party administrator if your company provides that, or asking your company's HR. Get as much guidance as you can instead of not being sure. Again, it's just going to be easier for you in the long run. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so and leave a comment if you did so I can say hi. The fourth mistake to avoid is to not follow up. I have heard of several stories where women just left money on the table. I mean, I get it. You're in postpartum, you're with a new baby, trying to bond. The last thing you want to do is work with numbers and paperwork and things like that. I just think it's so important that women don't miss out on pay that you're supposed to be getting just because you had a baby. So the full responsibility of making sure you get paid is going to fully rely on you. No one else is going to do this work for you. If there is a typo on your paycheck, if you are missing a check from the government, no one is really going to notice except for you. So I've had to do exercises every single time where I create a spreadsheet and I write down the amounts of every single check that I receive from the government, every single check that I receive from my company, and just make sure that I was made whole. Now, some companies may offer a third-party administrator to help you through this leave process, which is amazing. That is so great. Your administrator will help you do a lot of this follow-up work, and you just have one person that you need to chase in terms of making sure that you get everything that you need. Now, some other companies, for example, a startup, this past time, I did not have a third-party administrator this time around, so it was me that had to be chasing down the government, to be chasing down my company, making sure that they are paying me the correct amount. Now, it can be a little bit confusing. So for the short-term disability portion, for example, you're going to be potentially receiving 3 checks. You're going to receive a check from California, you're going to receive a check from Unum, which is the short-term disability that your payroll pays into, and then you're going to be receiving a check from your company, ideally, if they have promised you the company benefit of getting paid 100% while you are on maternity leave. This time around was tricky. The Unum payments may come through your company as well. So you may be in a situation where you only receive checks during your short-term disability portion from 2 parties, and that is California and your company. If this isn't confusing enough, this is just another plug to say I'm not an expert, but I've been through this enough times where I can probably help point you in the right direction. I am really happy to help you out, so feel free to reach out. I'm going to end this video with some real game changers. So if you find yourself needing to talk to EDD, here is the shortcut that you can use. As soon as you hear the automated voice messaging, you can enter these numbers and it will get you to a person right away. Not quite a person, sorry. It will get you to be on hold right away to get in line to speak to a person. There are plenty of times where there may be too many people and you may not even be able to get in line to speak to a person. I'm also going to give you the answers to the test in terms of if you make more than $50,000 in a year, this is the amount that you should be getting from the state. Typically, what the state pays you does depend on how much you make, but if you make more than $50,000 a year, this is the amount that your check should look like in 2022 for 2 weeks of pay. If you are getting that amount, then know that you are getting the paid full amount. Now it's the matter of getting the right amount of checks. California short-term disability entitles you to 4 weeks before birth, 6 weeks after birth if you had a vaginal birth, and 8 weeks if you had a C-section. If you have additional questions about short-term disability, about PFL, paid family leave, about FMLA, any of this stuff, feel free to leave a comment down below and I could make another video about that to help answer your questions. My next video, I'm going to be talking about the costs of giving birth this time around and how it compared to last time as well. So if you're interested, remember to subscribe and I will see you in the next video.